Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Manifest. Quite a few things went down in this episode, so let's break everything down. Obviously, Cal is doing a lot better, but he can still feel his connection to Marco. And so, to combat this, Ben gets a job at a company that's related to Unified Dynamic Systems, so that he could, try and find some paper trail to kind of leading him back to where all these, the 11 missing passengers are at. What I also love is that during the interview, Ben kind of brings up, it's like, well, got that 5-year gap on my resume. And you see the lady kind of feel a little bad. It's like, that's an interesting way to get a job, because it's like, that's how you guarantee yourself the job, because it's like, yeah, I'm one of those people from the flight who went missing for 5 years. And I just thought that was such a funny thing. Also, such a weird, interesting thing, just serendipity. The actor who played Ben's boss in this episode, Ronnie, that's literally the same actor who popped up in tonight's episode of, yesterday at the time of me recording this, because it's like super early in the morning at this point in time, but the same episode of Bull that aired literally at the same time playing Chris. It's the same actor. I was like, what? 2 different shows, 2 different networks. I don't know, maybe a lot of that stuff, like, CBS and NBC film a lot of their same stuff on the same lot or something like that. Just kind of like CW stuff. I know all the CW stuff in Vancouver, because that's where they film a lot of their stuff. Kind of all films on the same lot, so I guess the same thing kind of apply. But it's just weird to me. It's like, I literally saw you 2 different shows that came out at the same time on the same night on 2 different networks. It's just funny to me for whatever reason. Nevertheless, Ben's investigation leads him to basically Fiona, who is kind of like, she was kind of in neurologist type of stuff. I forgot what it was exactly that she was a part of, but now she kind of flows in the area of kind of fringe stuff, because she's kind of more spiritual, because she's all about bringing all brains together to be one connected, bring all minds together to be connected. And it's like, okay, so her name's all over this SP file, which we later on find out is called the Singularity Project. But it turns out Fiona's not a bad person in all of this. It seems like she's just being used. I guess it's because of her status of kind of being out there even before they were on the plane, and then because she's like the most famous person that was on the plane at the time, so it's kind of like this sudden boost of celebrity after the 5 years just made her even more famous. So on top of that, plus I guess her position in particular, her knowledge of wanting under this particular topic of combining minds, I guess she probably already had these thoughts beforehand, and maybe in that 5-year period, someone's just kind of building upon what she had already kind of started a little bit, kind of like S.N.A.F.U's treatment that cured, or was in the process of curing Cal. Like, she had started on that before she left, and then they kind of perfected it, while she was going. So I'm wondering, is it the same thing? Because it's interesting too, because Fiona hasn't even had none of the calling or this and that. None of the visions have come to her. So that begs the question is, has she not been activated yet? I mean, because I don't think she was one of the people that was there at the plane either. So it begs the question of okay, so maybe Fiona's part to play in this isn't really set yet because of the position that she's in. She's not in a position yet where it's okay, the calling's fully brought her into the fold yet. Maybe all these other things have to come out first and be done, like I said, like a domino effect, until we reach where Fiona plays her part and kind of subsequently go from there. That's what I'm thinking, but we'll kind of have to wait and see, because that was kind of all that really was with a whole Fiona situation, was just kind of that. Because I was like, oh, is she kind of the bad guy in this? It turns out, maybe not. But Ben ends up stealing some information, putting it on the flash drive. Vance, watching his text messages, decides to intervene and stuff like that, because he figures it out pretty early, and it's like, Ben's taking his job because he's trying to figure things out. It's like, okay, Vance. I'm like, okay, Vance, you're kind of a good guy. And then he kind of does a dick move of give me the flash drive. I'm like, what? Dude, you had the best intentions. All you have to do is sit down with Ben. Okay, we should work together. It's like, no, you're just being a dick and just give me the flash drive or I'm going to arrest you. It's like, and he's like, you got to find the 11 passengers, Vance. And he's just walking away. I'm like, if you weren't such a dick about it, you could be like, hey, we'll work together. Or at the very least, calm his mind and be like, oh yeah, no. I'm gonna look into this because I believe there's something to, I guess like because it's like, oh, I'm an NSA agent, so I can't really let you know where my investigation leads me and stuff like that. But it's like, come on, dude, don't be a dick in this situation. It's like, you should work with them because obviously they know something a little more than you do. I mean, hell, you were literally waiting for them to figure stuff out. So that's why I'm kind of like, I don't know. I mean, to be fair, we can see that he is changing his mind because I guess the person who I'd consider his partner, Powell, calls him and it's like, oh yeah, you want us to move on Ben? And he's like, yeah, I didn't actually receive anything from Ben. I don't have anything on him. It's like, and he's keeping a flash drive. So I'm thinking it's to the point Vance isn't even trusting his own partner because his partner kept being like, oh man, you got to forget about this Ben thing. It's like, yeah, you were a little too eager to make him drop this. I guess it makes sense, but Vance is in a position where it's kind of like literally no agency is telling him exactly what's going on. There's still 11 missing people and no one's saying anything. So it's kind of like, yeah, something suspicious there. But now I think probably because Powell kept asking him to drop it, it's like, oh, maybe we should do this, or maybe we should do that. Maybe we should make a move on Ben. It's kind of like, because they're trying to probably remove Ben from the equation too, without arising too much suspicion with Vance. But I think for him now, it's kind of like he's kind of set in his path. Because even Cal is like, no, he's not a bad guy anymore, which kind of shows that, hey, he was a bad guy, at least in Cal's mind, or whatever this whole situation is, because he was interfering with what's going to go down, and it seemed like he was a bad guy. But like, hey, he's shifting, so what this all turns out to be is like connectivity and stuff like that, the connections that bring all this together. So even though he wasn't a part of the flight, his destiny kind of seems like it's become intertwined with it. He's kind of like flight adjacent, like this connective circle between them and everyone in their lives. Maybe he kind of flows into that too. Like, does it connect? It seems like the connection doesn't just stop with them, it does flow with everyone in their lives, because there's quite a few things that need to break down. Like, for example, like Michaela's storyline this episode. There's a whole, her and Lourdes spending time together along with Jarrett. That kind of played into the case because there's a kid named Carlos. His uncle was killed, and he didn't want to rat on the guy who did it because Carlos wanted to kill him himself for revenge. And talking about the moment Michaela was like, because the moment Carlos was like, I can't do this. I'm like, he didn't do it because he was scared or froze up. It's like, no, he wants to do this himself, because you could tell by the way he was looking, kind of darting his eyes around. So I was like, that's got to be what that's all about. Because it was that interesting conversation Michaela had with him, kind of about like, after losing someone like that, you have to kind of build yourself up. And he's like, are you finished building yourself back up? And Michaela's like, nowhere near. I mean, to be fair, like, she was struggling with that Evie situation even before she left. And it's like, that Evie situation, it's been 5 years for everyone else. It's a much fresher wound for Michaela than it is anyone else. But what was interesting is that it turned out Carlos did have the gun. Michaela was telling him, like, I accidentally killed someone and it haunts me, and I can't imagine what it'd do to you if you find out, like, if you do it on purpose. Like, that's going to be on a whole other level. So it turns into that thing, and like, she ends up telling Jarrett later on, which I was actually surprised that she did. Also, side note, Jarrett told her about, oh yeah, Vance is watching, the NSA is watching you. Vance came to me about keeping an eye on you. I didn't say anything, and I never will. I'm like, what? I don't know why. I kind of figured, because you didn't say anything already, but I guess it's like, after all this stuff, it's kind of like, no, I gotta at least warn you. Like, things between us are good. You've kind of been open to me about stuff, so it's the very least I can do. And at first, Jarrett's kind of like chewing her out, because it's like, you can't, like, what? You listen to those voices in your head, they're leading you down there, and it's like, oh, lo and behold, look, Carlos shows up and he's willing to give over a gun. The guy sadly ended up getting released because Carlos waited so long. But following the heartbeat, Michaela was able to track him down. And even Jarrett's kind of like, wait, what the hell? Like, holy crap, this crap is real. I mean, to be fair, even during the situation, he listened to her every call. Like, even though she wasn't hearing a voice, she was hearing a heartbeat, which in the long run, we ended up finding out what that's about. And it's crazy. The heart she kept hearing was Evie's. Like, Carlos needed a surgery, and that the heart he needed for it came from Evie. She was the donor. And it's like, oh, once again, when I was bringing up the fact that the connections run deeper to them, this is a connection to Michaela, but it goes through Evie, and now it connects her to Carlos. So that thing that she struggled with for so long, the Evie situation, she even talks about it. Like, that's kind of the one thing that she has not been okay since the whole Evie situation. And helping out Carlos, following the calling, just listening to it this time, made her go, I think for the first time since then, I finally feel like I'm on the way to being okay. the most okay she's been in a long time, you know? Well, like I said, subsequently since the Evie thing, because I forget, like I just said earlier, it hasn't been a long time. It's still kind of a fresh wound situation. So that was actually kind of crazy in that regard. And even more so kind of pushing the Cal angle is that he drew a picture of Carlos with Evie's heart. And it's like, that was Michaela's sign to kind of have faith. Because even she doesn't understand all this, but she's taking a leap of faith. Her leap of faith was listening. Because the last time she listened to the calling, she misinterpreted it. And it led to, you know, Jarrett kind of getting caught up in all that situation, kind of messing up that operation and stuff. But this time she did it and ended up saving someone's life because that dude was about to jack an old man for his money, which is like, man, you just got released from prison. But I guess it's kind of like his situation is what it is. It looks like he was kind of like wasn't the most, you know, stable person, probably because it's like drugs or whatever, so he needed whatever money he can get type of thing. He looked like he was kind of like in a little cold turkey. Not that he was trying to be, it was just kind of like withdrawal. That's the word I was looking for. I had to flip through it till I finally got to it. Nevertheless, so now Ben's kind of got his side to it a certain extent of just like, you know, because for Ben, he is the numbers guy, he is the fact guy, he is the science guy, because it's like none of it makes sense to him, and just like until he saw, like, you know, it's kind of like, I'm still waiting for it, and I'm telling you it's going to come up. The whole him and Danny situation, like there's going to be something related to everything that's going to end up bringing Ben and Danny together, which things are still a little weird and awkward between them, just because it's that complication of, because Danny is a part of Olive's life, and you know it bothers Ben. As her dad, he wants to be there for her, but at the same time, it's like she isn't 100% open with him. Like they are bridging the gap, sure, but she still has that relationship with Danny, and it's just Danny's just a constant reminder of what he missed out when it came to Grace and Olive, you know, and that's just the most heartbreaking thing. Because even had Danny being like, I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes here, Ben, I'm not her dad, but the fact of the matter is I care about Olive, she asked for my help, I can't turn her away. He's like, great scene again, Danny. It's kind of, you can tell there's animosity there. Danny's trying, it's a complicated situation, but you can tell he misses that. But like the problem is, he's kind of left out in the cold, and that's the sad part of the situation. Ben gets to be with them like all the other time. Danny's like trying to get any time he can with them, but he would, for all that time, he was there for, you know, Olive during the hard times. Like obviously the whole little rock climbing thing that they do, it was like training her for our competition, but it was also to help her get over like her kind of being taken off antidepressants at that time. And for her to be like, oh yeah, I'm done with this. At first I was like, oh man, like she must feel conflicted because it's like she's spending time with Danny, even though I was like, yeah, but she kind of made it clear that she wanted to spend time with Danny. So is it because she feels the kind of conflict, the whole situation? Does she feel bad because it's like she's caught between the two important men in her life, her actual dad and Danny, who's like a friend / another father figure for her? But it turns out it's because she was afraid to admit that the fact of the matter is the rock climbing was good for her, because even her dad was like, yeah, I'm not going to fault something that was good for you that kind of got you to where you are. So if it was good for you then, why not keep doing that thing that was good for you? And it turns out the rock climbing was one thing, but I think in the end, the most important thing was Olive's connection to Danny. And maybe that's what Ben is there to do. Like subsequently, he's pushing Olive closer to Danny in the sense of like, Danny is a good thing for her, even though it leaves him feeling complicated. He might feel like it might jeopardize his relationship with Olive, but you know, maybe in the end it will just end up helping strengthen it by kind of giving her two important people, you know, three, you know, including her mom being there for her. So that's how I'm chalking that up, but we'll kind of have to wait and see, you know, what that ends up being, if it ends up being anything at all. I'm also curious to see how things continue for Ben when it comes to work and everything, because it's like, yeah, you kind of got what you needed, but I think it is still a situation of like, it's still an evolving situation, so probably being there will probably help him. Once again, there's no accidents with the situation. Like everything kind of happens for a reason. Everything and everyone is connected. You may not see how the paths converge and twist and turn, but the connections are still there waiting to be, well, connected. But I'm very interested to see where this all takes us in the next episode. You know, what moves that Vance makes, and will he ultimately work with everyone from the flight, in particular Ben and Michaela? I'm also curious to see what happens with the whole Michaela situation now that Jarrett's kind of seen it firsthand, like her whole thing. Like, obviously, he probably had slight reservations. He believed her was on her side, obviously, but now he kind of seen it firsthand, like, oh, this is how it works. Because it's like, you just happen to track this dude down like that. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's crazy. Also, it kind of puts, I mean, to be fair, things were awkward between Lourdes and Michaela, but that wasn't the reason why she left. They were kind of under that impression, but obviously, probably given enough time, fans will kind of heal on that front too, which in itself is kind of a complicated thing too. I have no idea how that story is going to play out, whether it's just going to be like, oh, Lourdes and Jarrett stay together, or they're going to be kind of a mix up, because it's like Jarrett feels the way he does. He still loves Michaela, which is just, a complicated thing all on its own, and Michaela still loves him too, so I don't know. Like I said, we'll just kind of have to wait and see on all that. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live out to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.